Today I'm here with an award-winning Canadian journalist, Iman Butter, and when she is not dominating her job at the CBC, she is an ethical fashion designer who provides job opportunities for women around the world. Also, she will be dominating the law world soon enough. So, in my perspective, she's basically the equivalent to if Wakanda had a superwoman.
I've always wanted to be a fashion designer, but the storytelling part of fashion, right? Like where our clothing comes from. And it was never really like, I didn't go to fashion school with the idea of like launching a company. It was just like, I need a break. I need to figure out my life. I love journalism, but something feels off. And like, I guess that's the thing about me. Like I'll always like kind of like follow my heart in that sense. So I went to fashion school and started combining fashion and journalism. Although I could have been a fashion journalist, I don't know why that never occurred to me. It just made sense to tell the stories of the women who made clothing more so. You're gonna notice like this trend in my life where it's like I never really choose things. They're just like it's just something that's been like a part of my life. I've always designed clothing. I got my first sewing machine when I was like 8 years old. I got it from like Sears clearance. I will never forget because I was asking for 2 presents for like all of Eid. I wanted a sewing machine and a telescope. And I think I wanted to be an astronomer at one point as well. Just stuck with sewing though. So I used to like, I mean, being from Regina, Saskatchewan, there's really nowhere to buy clothing. So I used to make clothes for myself. They weren't really wearable clothing. It was just like random things that I would do. And so it kind of just, it started like, I like would teach myself how to sketch and like how to make patterns. And like it kind of just evolved from there. And then I kind of just put my lifestyle into a company. Like it was just like creating stories that people care about and like everyone buys clothing, right? It's not like it's not really a niche market. Everyone's gonna need a sweater and a pair of pants. So it was like, why don't I like? It's like putting stories in your face. Like you have to care about this because you're buying it. Not even care, but you're gonna read it. And if you read it like 15, 30 times, it's gonna start like mattering to you. And if you're constantly presented with like who made your clothes, you're gonna go into stores like Forever 21 and H&M and realize that it's probably made by a 7-year-old in India. So it's like I wanted people to start questioning what they decided was normal because it's not normal for us to see things like sweatshops as being socially acceptable. I see myself in so many communities. The reason that like I could never like even when I was a kid, like I couldn't go to stores like Forever 21 and H&M because I like when I see made in India, I know that's not like, you know, it's not like you're paying people fair wages. I can't buy something for $4 and like a company gets a profit, covers their expenses, and like the workers get fair amounts of money, right? So it's like I can relate to too many people to put myself in a position where I can take advantage of someone. So when I say my company is my lifestyle, it's like my entire identity is put into this brand. Like it's like I want people to do well because I know what it's like when people don't want you to do well and when it's part of like a systemic institution that does not want you to succeed.
You've mentioned that you worked with ethical fashion, and I just want you to explain more about that because when you say ethical fashion, some people might not think or might not know what you do. So can you just explain what you advocate for and everything that goes in with your brand and helping out women around the world?
So the whole idea with my brand is that like every collection works in a different country, and I like find like I don't like working with manufacturers. I like working with local artists because I want as much money to like actually go to people as opposed to like covering production costs. So I'll like find like a seamstress in like Nigeria or like a shoemaker in Bangladesh, and I'll like send them a sketch and be like, this is what I want to make. How can you like help me make this? And sometimes it's awful. They lose a ton of money. But sometimes I get like really cool, beautiful pieces. It's a process. It's realizing that like the reason people go through factories is because it's significantly easier and much more efficient. But then it's also like I feel like I have like a family in like so many different countries at this point. It's like I've worked with women in Harlem, Somalia, Morocco, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Malaysia, and that's like 2 collections. So it's kind of like I want to see how much this can grow, and it's like I've been doing this for 2 years. I've been invited to like 15 fashion shows, and it's people. I feel like ethical fashion is now becoming a trend, but that's the one trend that I'm okay with because it's pushing people to start thinking more about how they shop and who they shop from.
Where has your designs been showcased and in terms of fashion shows and boutiques? Like, where have they been showcased and who have you been working with?
There's a lot of places. There's one boutique in Saskatchewan that I'm really excited to start working with. They're called Kate and Coda. And the reason that I'm really excited to work with them is they are the first, they started Sask Fashion Week, and one of the owners, the co-owners, Chelsea, she is the first person that I've ever interviewed while I was like a J school student, like my very, very first interview. So it's just cool that we get to like work together now. This year I'm showing in Miami Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week, Vancouver Fashion Week, Western Canada Fashion Week, Sask Fashion Week. I feel like there's 2 more in there. But I'm trying to like keep it all as concise as possible this summer because I start law school in the fall.
In your words, from your perspective, what does modest fashion mean to you, and what is modest fashion?
I mean, it's like, it's weird because like if you see a non-Muslim person wearing like a baggy sweater and a pair of jeans, you're not gonna, basically what I'm wearing right now, you're not gonna call it modest fashion. It's just clothing. So I feel like modest fashion almost applies more to who wears it. So like modest fashion is just code for Muslim fashion, which is incorrect because that's like saying all Muslim women dress the same and only Muslim women care about modesty. I know a lot of Jewish women who would oppose to that. But it's not, I'm just tired of labels and like boxes that people try to put you into, right? It's just like, as a designer, people always ask, it's like modest fashion is like the new buzzword. Everybody is like, Muslim women can dress themselves. This is so cool. Let's get the media coverage. But it also like ties into like this weird Muslim obsession that's going on. And it's either like from people who don't like Muslims or people who are trying a little too hard to look like they like Muslims. I'm just like, just be normal. Like, don't make things weird. I wanted to be a designer before I realized I was Muslim. So to me, to identify as a modest designer, like, it's just like, as a Somali person, our traditional clothing is see-through, so I don't know how modest that is. And just like, I don't know. It's just like, sometimes I wear long, baggy clothing. I used to wear my dad's dress shirts. I like being comfy. Women's clothing isn't comfy, so I design comfy clothes.
The last fashion show I was at, which was IMFDF, and from what I know, you picked your own models, you did their own makeup, and I want to know why you chose to do that, and how does that help impact all these other everyday women that are seeing your designs?
I choose to work with as many women of color as I can when it comes to fashion, because the only time, like, you'll see like, say like Gucci does a runway and they have like one black girl. It's like, wow, Gucci had such a diverse cast. They had one black person. But like do the opposite and have all black women and like one white person, it looks odd. Like people notice it immediately. And for me, it's just breaking this notion that like whiteness is normal. Like it's not, we're all normal. Like you can't have one identity being like this, like the definition of what being a human being is. Like why do we say girl, then black girl, then Asian girl, right? Like who gets to decide who just gets to be just a girl? So for me, like I actually did one interview where I had like another, like it's right after a runway show and it was all black women. And this poor journalist was like, wow, you had such a diverse cast. I was like, I didn't. They were all black. There was no diversity. This was intentional. And it's kind of like, you always get to be the other, even when you're in a room full of people who just look like you. So it's kind of like, what does that tell you about how you were socialized and like how you think?
What is your future plans for the fashion industry and maybe future goals?
So I'm showing at New York Fashion Week for the first time. I think my show is September 8th or something like that. Maybe September 12th. And I had like a huge, like, it's like a very theatrical performance planned. I have like a model that I just signed from the UK. Again, I'm bringing my own models. And it's kind of like my final show before law school. Well, it's during law school, but it's, the line is called Al Nisa, and it's like, which translates into the woman, and it's kind of like I don't know, I guess I look at my collections as like moving stories. And I have like I'm closing the show with like a woman who is very, very important to me, and has been a mentor. She actually lost her son to police violence 2 years ago. And the reason that this show is important to me is because I think one of the women that I signed is an actual model, but the rest of them are just really powerful women that I respect and look up to. And like I think those are the stories and the narratives that we need to be showcasing, because realistically, like fashion is like like we're pushing STEM, we're pushing education, we're pushing so many things to like inspire young girls to like become more than just like basically to explore career opportunities that like maybe weren't seen as like women friendly, but fashion is still like the focus, you know? So like for me, I'm just like I want the girls who aspire to be in the fashion world to see these women as the women who matter in the fashion community as well.
From your perspective, what does success mean to you? And in other words, how can someone be successful in a career, in life, things like that?
I think success for me just means being proud of myself. And like that's not really tied to like any sort of accomplishments. It just usually means like I've like you know when you walk away from a story and you know you did everything you could to like get that person to talk to you and you're not upset over it because you tried your absolute hardest. Like I think to me like that's success. It's like I know that like I might not accomplish what I want with my career, but I know that like I go to work every single day trying to do my absolute best and trying to tell the stories that I care about. Um, I think success like means like in 40 years still being passionate about what I do every single day. Because my biggest fear is like hating my job. Like I never want to be that person.